Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Awaken the World. We are live on this Tuesday, August the 17th. It is, of course, 6 p.m., 6:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Death and loss in fitting times. Live here on the Awaken the World page, of course. Yeah, so much nicer to have the sky back. We've been blessed by a couple of days of rain, and that's made a huge difference, as far as I'm concerned. People are worried, the smoke can be seen in the hills from the playground just a block away from here, and I personally just can't get that fussed about things. But regardless of that, how are you all doing? As always, let me express my love to each and every one of you. Whatever's going on right now is the very best thing for you. It truly, truly is. It's actually quite perfect. And it's offering you a wondrous opportunity to awaken and evolve to a higher level of being. So, what are we going to talk about tonight? We're going to talk about death and loss. And really, the times seem fitting in a lot of ways, don't they? And in this, I will quote the doom of Buddha. Do ardently today what must be done, for who knows, tomorrow may not come. In other words, you never know when this life is done. What you have is this moment right now. So we're going to talk a little bit about death, a little refresher, a little bit of a re-understanding, if you will, because it's easy when times become tumultuous that we can lose ourselves, forget ourselves, lose that sense of focus a lot of times. And it's really important to be reminding ourselves, bringing ourselves back to that centered space. And we're going to talk about loss, of course, and about what is truly being lost. And it isn't the houses per se, it isn't the physical items, but there's something else being lost. And of course, the times are rather fitting. So, a little interesting tidbit since we're on this subject that some people find very macabre, and I actually don't. I've been dead, so to me, it's pretty laughable actually, because really, death is like the biggest surprise of your life. Because no matter what you may think, no matter what you may believe is going to happen, when you die, the realization that you're not dead is one of a kind. It really, really, really is. And I am so overjoyed that each and every one of you, no matter what you think, are going to experience that literally firsthand for yourself. So for me, death is certainly not a macabre subject or a negative subject in any sort of way. So let's just dive into death a little bit since we're on the subject, okay? And death doesn't have to be, what we would call the big D, graveyard dead. Right alongside, doomed, ultimate doom. But death can also be the death of what we are facing right now as a first world civilization. And we really do have to point to ourselves, because it's really hard to blame a little pygmy tribe down in the Amazon for global warming. It just doesn't make sense. So we can look at what's happening and historically, the way human beings behave is that when we see what we are holding on to begin to fall apart, we begin to act out of desperation. And you can see this manifest in the world around us right now. So many people are telling me that they're not sleeping. I'm seeing it pop up all over social media. Their minds are driving them insane. That they don't know how to process or deal with what's happening. There's this high level of anxiety. And that's because there is this great resistance to that thing called change. And remember, change is always tiny. The problem is we really don't pay attention to it. So, let's just take a look at the obvious one, like climate change, right? 1972, first summit. Climate change has never stopped, but it started accelerating at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. The level of change, the tininess of the change didn't increase in size. There was just more tiny changes happening. And here we are, we finally become aware of it, and now we go, whoa, huge change. What do we do? Well, not really, actually. It's not huge change at all. But it was just that little tiny change that was enough to push us over that edge. The same mechanism is the one that we resist right now. The realization that what we're being offered, and really, it's better to be offered it than to have it rammed down your throat. I mean, always, right? Or booted right up your... I mean, it's always better to take it off of a plate. What's being offered is really an opportunity here. Just as your impending death, dead, shuffling off this mortal coil, is also an opportunity. We as a species are being offered an opportunity, quite a wondrous one, to not try to hold on to the ways that we've been practicing things, organizing ourselves, exhibiting ourselves, expressing ourselves in such ways that we damage so many of us as we damage the planet. We're being offered that gift of saying, you know what? We can see the signs. We're grateful for the opportunity. We can look at the death of the way we're living right now, not as an enemy, not as something to be feared, but as a wonderful friend that's coming in and saying your way of life is doomed. Get over it. There's something far better on the horizon. And if we could focus on that, if we could turn our attention to that, we wouldn't be so anxious. We wouldn't be so concerned. People would be sleeping at night. Perhaps even becoming excited at the future that their children and grandchildren were going to enjoy and benefit from because of the monumental death that we were willingly taking a part in. And here's the deal, just as with your physical death, you don't have a choice whether you take part in it or not. The only thing is whether you're willing or unwilling. And, willing is always the way to go. I mean, you knew that coming in here, that the only way out was to go through death's door. And then you got this idea that death's door would not be a pleasant place to be. And indeed, that's really not the case. Really what death is death is representative of the only big change that we perceive And that big change is, in our perception, is life, dead. They appear to be polar opposites, like hot and cold, right? We think of life and we think of death. We think of death as something other than life. But that's not the case. You see, life and death both occur within life. They really do. So let's just move away from the deeper physical death and stick with some of the little deaths we face. And these are deaths we are facing right now. What about all those people out there who are in positions where their livelihood, the way they've gained everything they have, is part of something that's causing the harm? What then? And this is where we have to work together to translate and retrain people and offer them the ability to move into more harmonious, more uplifting to the planet types of occupations. And that's not going to be easy. The very best thing we could do is basically hire the entirety of the species by all the governments to go ahead and replant the whole planet. And that would be wonderful. But of course, we're not going to do things like that. You know, every day in our lives, we face little deaths. We face the death of wanting that chocolate chip cookie and going to the fridge or cupboard and opening it and finding out the chocolate chip cookie's already gone. The death of our dreams. Perhaps we dreamt to do something and we didn't succeed in it, or we didn't get a chance to do it, and we struggled to let it go. And the big reason behind this is whenever we're faced with change that is taking from us, whether it's taking our life or taking our homes or taking our climate or taking our way of existing, or whatever the case may be, egoically, we hate it. And we forget so easily that it has been that change all along that has produced all the wondrous things that have been part of our existence. It is not an end. Really, what death is change with a capital C in our perception. Whether it's the death of a relationship, a death of your home, your community, the forest next door. Whatever these deaths are, they're part of a grander operation at work, a larger play that's happening. And that play is a wondrous play. It is so real that most people will never be convinced that there's anything more than the play. But there truly, truly is. This is really but the skin on the orange. You could think of the entirety of our existence as the whole orange. Don't get too lost up in the peel. It doesn't taste as good as you think it does. Wait till you get to the real orange inside. So what about loss? And we can think of death and loss as being sort of synonymous with each other, right? And they're really not. But you know, I do see that when we think of the loss of our way of life, or the loss of our belongings, or the loss of our home, we're really talking the same thing about death. And we equate death with bad, with loss, with the concept that something's being stripped or taken away, and not even stripped away, because stripped away is actually far closer to the truth. But we believe it's being taken. Like we don't have a choice. But you did make the choice. You made the choice before you came here to come here. The fact that you were born into this physical realm means you made the choice to experience the full gamut of this illusion. This very valuable, very real, very precious gift. And in coming here, you accepted that part of life was this concept called death, except you knew then that there actually was no loss. That death was more of an evolutionary cosmic gateway through which you pass into a higher state of existence. Not a loss, but a gaining of a new perception, a gaining on the truth of your own eternal nature, a gain in being able to fully feel that sense of oneness and wholeness and connection that is always present there, even in the darkest moments underneath those flaming skies. It's so easy to get focused on the drama. It's so easy to get focused on the play. It's like watching a soap opera as the world burns. and we can get focused there, and we can subsume our consciousness to it, and we can fall into despair, or we can look upon it in a state of stillness. And as I mentioned on the one post today that was lamenting the burning down of the only gas station in the neighborhood, you know, out of the ashes, something greater than before. When we look past what's happening and we look at what we're being offered, when we look at the gift that's waiting in the eye of the storm that surrounds us, the storm no longer matters. We understand the storm. We understand the stripping away. We understand the ripping off. We understand the need for Shiva to take that baseball bat and start wielding it with force. Not to do us harm collectively or individually, but to bring us to the point where we finally have to surrender our stubbornness. Finally have to admit that now's the time. And this is the only time. And for that I am eternally grateful. Death and loss are subjective experiences that are really unreal. That there is no object or thing that can lessen who you are, make you less than what you are, or somehow take away from your value. Your value is inherent within you. Be at peace. Learn to pay attention to your breath. Learn to use your breath to help you along through hard times. You know, the world is experiencing the culmination of many, many changes that have been happening in little tiny increments over a long period of time. And most people are just now becoming aware of those. We're in for tumultuous times. It's going to be one hell of a roller coaster ride going forward from here. Remember your sense of humor. Remember you're doomed anyways, so you might as well enjoy the journey. That's it, that's all. Namaste. Have a beautiful night. We'll talk again very soon.